is on.
I'm back. Everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I don't know what happened. I got disconnected when the live streaming started. Okay, so welcome everybody. This is the 4th of May, 2024, the general meeting of the West.
May the 4th be with you.
Yep, may the 4th be with you, as Brent would say.
All right.
And this is the general meeting of the Western North Carolina Linux Users Group. And for people who may be watching this in the future or watching it now, and we just don't know they're here, my name is Dan Calloway, and I'm moderating the group. So looks like we got a few people in the room today. We got, see, 6 besides myself. So got some people video turned off. Rusty, do you have the ability to bring your video up, Rusty, if we bring you up?
I have a video, but it's pretty much useless.
Oh,
it's
okay.
such a poor quality on this little Android laptop.
All right. Why don't we go ahead and start with you, Rusty, since you turned your mic on.
Okay.
What do you got going on this month?
Well, a little report of activity. I think I missed last month's meeting. I will report that I'm so stranded in all my projects, which have such poor forward motion, that I decided to do more hiking because I'm better at putting one foot in front of the other than I am at completing projects. And I feel more healthy if I do that. So the 2 trips in the last 2 weeks were about an 8-miler and a 7-miler. The first one was Alan would be interested to know that I used his the high. Alan, what's the name of your website? highpeaks.org. We went out this is one of the best trails to go through old, really big spruce and balsam fir. It's the ridge that goes out from Balsam Gap that is to a peak called Big Butt, and it's just really pretty. It's a lot of up and down, and it's on the south side of the Cane River. So you can look across the Cane Valley to Mount Mitchell. And the second trip was up the profile of Grandfather Mountain, which is now State Park, and that's way too steep. You just go up until you can't stand it any longer, and then you go back down. But I did get to see the curious thing about hiking now is that very often particularly if you're up on peaks, you can get cell phone access. So you're using your cell phone all the time to identify plants, to just information. A lot of questions come up when you're hiking that are just like natural science questions or just anyway. But I got to witness this application called All Trails, which has thousands of hiking trails recorded, and they have an elevation profile of the trail that you're on, and by not GIS, but by GPS, they'll pinpoint where you are on the elevation shifts and how far into the hike you are. And it's just ridiculous, the amount of information, for all these trails, which brings up one general interest, and that is, if anybody is interested, I would love to have discussions with you know, group, or just, I would love to see some sort of application that would be GIS based, that would deal with potholes and our road maintenance information, just for open access to the data about what keeps our roads functioning. The one that most interests me is, I've always wondered as I've traveled certain sections of road, what the rate of breakdown of asphalt is, and whether it is really the same for all roads, or whether it variable according to how the quality of the road construction. So if anyone has any interest in that particular topic, and if anyone has heard of an application that is attempting to maintain a data set on roadways, including reporting of road conditions, and I'm not talking about weather conditions, but physical road repair and so forth. I know there are things that I have seen for interstate driving that that report traffic jams, and of course that's a people problem to me more than a road problem.
I wonder if the DOT, Rusty, could tell you anything.
Oh, I think the DOT is the last place to find any sort of public access information.
Oops, sorry. Touched a nerve there.
What's that?
I said, I'm sorry, I touched a nerve there.
Yeah, well, I think anyone getting into the data of how roads are maintained is going to encounter the bureaucracy of state highway systems. You know, North Carolina is blessed and cursed with roads, and you know, it's a political football, and it remains to be seen how North Carolina will continue to pave good land and put a 4-lane road to every county seat, or every nook and cranny of the state. You know, there's a lot of overbuilding in some cases at a time when repair is going to become the enduring problem. Just when you have a large system, you know, no one asks, how are we going to maintain all this system? But anyway, that's my report for the.
Okay, well, Rusty, I saw something up. I was researching something while you were talking there. You were looking at road monitoring, and I was thinking, first thing that came to mind for me was Internet of Things and road sensors, you know, because placing IoT devices and sensors in the roadway to monitor that. And there's a website called researchgate.net that has a paper up there about it. You might want to take a look at that. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, well, the thing that I'm interested in is the sensing that is the summation of all of the human observation and participation in a system. And, you know, it's amazing. Well, Google is the example of how the activity of people as users results in the data, as long as you organize it and have a self-service. Searching the internet is self-service, and when you then study that searching, you have a value-added form of data, and you can also start. I mean, Google Maps starts with the database, but then the maps are populated by the users, so the significant landmarks are a creation of the users. Similarly, SketchUp which was designed and acquired by Google as a drafting platform. The reason why Google created it and open sourced it for at least a number of years before they sold it to Trimble, which is a real, you know, their interest is in selling drafting software. But my point is that Google was intent on modeling the whole world by giving away the modeling software to users so that all the buildings and the environment would be modeled by, in theory, by local artists and citizens, you know, putting buildings on the map. And so my point is that road maintenance is something that we all live and breathe. It doesn't matter about your political perspective or whatever. You know, everyone is scanning the horizon for potholes as they go down their daily path. And there's no one who knows more about their daily path than the local citizens. So it's not a case that is any technology. The primary technology that's needed is a user interface beginning with a database and the accumulation of local knowledge. And of course, that's why I say that, you know, when you go down a stretch of road, there's a good likelihood that that stretch of road has been paved by the same contractor more than once. And so the quality of that road may not just be generic asphalt. You always have to wonder where the air pockets are, and you know how the union between two lanes survives in the elements, and so, you know, to me, there's a lot of information that could be, well, there's certainly open source information that's available in the highway department, but then the other evolving information is the user.
Because I know both of them
And it's not
monitor traffic.
Design. It's not just the quality of the asphalt. It's also the question of like light timing. There's no democracy in light timing. You know, light timing is whatever the traffic engineer programmed into the system, and you know, maybe the proportion of light timing is not right for the user. The only way to know is report on even on an hourly basis. So I'm just commenting on what can happen on the web. There's just so many ways of aggregating value-added data, and the feedback that the organizations that might respond to that data are wide-ranging. They range from
Yeah, what you're referring to basically is more of a data analytics and data mining aspect.
yeah, but that's what whole web industries are founded on: the aggregation of data,
Right.
and the serving that back to users, and then from users representing the users, and then users are, you know, a lot of this.
Alan was trying to say something, and I heard about 3 words is all I heard.
Yeah. He doesn't have a hand up.
Looks like he's frozen too.
Sorry about that, Rusty. What were you saying?
Oh, well, I just can go on and on, so I'll cease.
Okay. All right.
Anyone
That's an
had
interesting topic there. What concept that you have that you brought up, Rusty. That was pretty good. I don't know much about that end of it. I mean, I know a little bit about Internet of Things, but what I was thinking of kind of threw me off. I was thinking that you were referring to more of the sensor type of stuff where inanimate objects that are made smart by computing power from Internet of Things would be monitoring the roadway and reporting back to somebody in the RFID network, about the condition of the roads. But what you're talking about is more of a polling of the public interest in what they think the road conditions are like and the roadway traffic is like and that kind of stuff, and gathering that data and analyzing it. So it's a different aspect.
Yeah, and if you can create local information, I mean, to me, the highway department should have such a system in place. I mean, that's the whole principle of serving a community of users. It's just that it's not going to happen. But I'm certain if someone devised some database to be populated and started with using fundamental tools that we have like Google Maps and other ways of displaying. I mean, we already have GPS, and most anyone could report a nugget, a pearl of information.
You're talking about a weather underground for roads, right?
Weather underground is another perfect example. I mean, in spite of the wonderful services of the National Weather Service, which I think is really still superior to any of the private things like weather.com.
Mm-hmm.
But in spite of that, there's to really get down to as they say, think globally, act locally. Well, to act locally, whether it's a pothole or a traffic light that's not timed right, or a section of highway that just doesn't seem to come up to snuff in decade-long maintenance. The way to discover it is to have local people empowered to be observing and reporting. And that, if you want to talk about local DOT listening, they'll listen if there's a gateway for people to participate. And you can call your local DOT if you wish and work your way through different services, but there's really no one that has created an interface that I'm not aware of any interface for local participation. Those are your watchdogs, and that's your sampling of public knowledge and information.
Yep. Yeah, I think Gene hit on it though when he said the DOT is probably the ones that really should be responsible for and have the data that you're talking about. But whether they're using it or utilizing it the way they should is a different story. But okay, well, you got anything else, Rusty, that was Linux based or open source that you're working on?
To be determined.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's see. Pete, what you got going on? Can you hear me, Pete? You're muted.
Okay, I had to get you guys turned back up here.
Gotcha.
Okay, Linux stuff, I haven't been doing a thing. Been doing gardening, which has been very dry here. I have to water almost every day. Getting up into the high 80s, 86, 87. and I'm looking forward to getting back on my mountaintop, where it'll be a little bit less than that, I'm sure. A couple of things that are going on that you guys might be interested in. I think I mentioned this one. Courtesy of the U.S. government, the 17 homes on top of Flat Top Mountain are getting free fiber to the home. I don't know what the timing is. It's being provided by Skyrunner, and I talked to them last October, and he said it was going to be about 6 months. So I'm hoping maybe it's going to end the process now as I get up there. I don't know. He said it's going to cost $150 for a fiber router, and I don't know what the monthly charge is going to be.
Is that going to be a gigabit connection, Pete?
Said, I think he said it was 10 gig.
10
but
gig?
I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. Does that sound like something fiber could do?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's good if they're going to get that.
Yeah.
Is that synchronous or asynchronous? Or do you know?
I'm pretty sure it's synchronous. It's being funded by the government as part of one of those spending programs to provide internet to remote and underserved areas.
Yeah.
And evidently, my mountaintop is considered remote or underserved.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. It's interesting that you bring. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry about that, but
no problem.
I wanted to say this before I forget. It's interesting you bring that up because my brother mentioned just to me the other day that a friend of his in West Virginia, where he used to live, he lives in Arizona now. But a friend of his that lives in West Virginia in the mountains, who is in an underserved area, has fiber now to his house. And I wondered why would they put fiber in an underserved area up in the mountains? And it's a government program, you said, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably why.
It's the one I think it's the one that's putting a lot of money into redoing roads and bridges.
Yeah.
And I think that this fiber thing is part of it, or internet service to underserved areas.
Wasn't there a program over in the Boone area, Alan, or your area, for getting internet out to the boonies?
I think Alan may be frozen again.
No, I just saw him move. Well, maybe not.
He's got a poor quality connection.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry.
Well, that's all right. Anyway, Pete, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No problem. So anyway, I'll try to keep everybody updated on how that goes and what the ins and outs are. When I talked to Skyrunner last October, he said the way it's being handled by the government is they determine the areas they want to provide service to. The addresses, street addresses in that area, and they put it up for bid to internet service providers such as Skyrunner, and they put Fairview Forest and Flat Top Mountain were two areas that came up, and Skyrunner bid on them to provide fiber to the home, free fiber to the home, how much they would charge the government to do it, and they won the bid. So now they're trying to figure out how they're going to do it. I don't know if it's going to be underground, above ground, I'm thinking it's going to probably be a combination of both. The top of my mountain is like pure quartz. You can dig down about 2 inches before you hit rock.
Pete, this doesn't sound like, I thought Skyrunner cut its teeth on radio-based connectivity, and I just
Yes,
didn't
it's called,
picture that they would be out there with digging machines and trenching machines, or
Yeah.
wiring from some place on the public utility poles.
Rusty,
I'm
didn't they
surprised.
used to host our Linux,
Well,
website.
their other forte, of course, was that they had equipment space, physical space in Asheville, in downtown Asheville, and they also could maintain servers. And so they are an ISP with a connection to the internet, but
Yep.
that's not referencing their ability or their interest in actually connecting out in the hinterlands.
No. But Gene, you're right. They did host our listserv. Server.
That's right. Yeah, the listserv. I couldn't put a name to it, but I knew they had something to do with the early days of the Linux.
Yeah, and they gave lots of help to Mountain Area Information Network, a lot of which
Maine. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there you go.
A lot of it was informal assistance, that was sort of almost voluntarily granted. And that's why they were the ones to sort of inherit the maintenance of the, I still have my email, main@main.nc.us.
Yeah, Mountain Area Internet.
And
I think they saw the handwriting on the wall. If they didn't provide this fiber to the home, somebody else would.
Yes, would, yeah.
And at rates that are competitive with their existing over-the-air network that they provide. And
Pete, I've got a question for you. For you. I'm kind of baffled. When you said that they bid on the contract with the government to put in fiber to underserved areas.
Yes.
It would seem to me that a part of that bid would be how you're going to do it. And you said that they bid on it and they won the contract, and then now they're trying to figure out how to do it. So I'm kind of baffled about that.
That's why I saw him driving around the top of my mountain. He was surveying. The origin point, we have a cell tower right at the very top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And that's going to be where it starts from. And then it crosses a boundary line between Fairview Forest and Flat Top Mountain. And they have to figure out what the best way to cross that boundary is, whether they talk to a property owner on both sides of the boundary line and get permission. I don't know ins and outs. And then the Skyrunner speed that they provide is pretty basic. It's 5 gigabytes down.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sorry, not 5 gigabytes. It's 5 megabit.
Megabit per second.
Megabyte down and less than that up. It's
Yeah.
asynchronous.
Right.
And there's no way that over the air, is going to compete with this fiber stuff.
No.
No,
Not a 10 gig rate. Synchronous.
No. Yeah. So they see the handwriting on the wall. Whether they had to submit how they were going to get access to all the properties, I don't.
What I'm saying is I would think the government wouldn't entertain a bid from a person that was bidding on a contract if they couldn't show how they were going to perform, how they were going to make it happen. Yeah. I mean, you got to have that like a business plan. You got to have it in place when you do your bid.
I don't know the answer to that. Maybe it's contingent on them submitting a plan on how they're going to get access to all these I don't.
Maybe they haven't been
hopefully
awarded the contract yet. They're a potential awardee.
So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that.
Sounds like a great.
And yeah. The other thing it's amazing it's working to me is I have shut down my internet at the house down here in Florida in preparation for heading back up to the mountains. And I wanted to participate in the club meeting this morning. So I have a hotspot I can share on my cell phone.
Right.
So I was able to figure out how to get Jitsi to on my laptop to talk through the hotspot and it seems to be working just fine.
Well, the picture
I'm
quality is
absolutely
not that
amazed.
great, but the voice quality is perfect. I mean, it's fine. And you're not going in
Video
and
seems
out.
to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're doing that over the carrier signal from your phone through a hotspot?
Yeah, it's over cell phone signal from
Yeah,
the
that's
phone.
good. Good deal.
So amazing things going on. That's about it for me, guys. And I'll be up to the mountains and let you know how this free fiber to the home is going up there next month.
Okay, well, good luck with that, and hopefully you'll get it.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Okay, well, thank you, Pete, for sharing that.
You're
And
welcome.
so let's see, Alan, are you able to talk to us?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. I hope so.
We can hear you.
First, regarding Skyrunner, what Pete was talking about, I would seriously doubt if they're going to do buried fiber. It's just way too expensive and difficult in here in the mountains with all the hard rock. They're probably going to go aerial fiber on telephone poles. And the real challenge with doing aerial fiber is getting pole right from the
one of the issues is. Go ahead, Arnie.
Pete.
Did he drop out or?
I don't know.
Did I drop out or did
Yeah.
You're still going, Alan.
You're still going. Yeah.
Right.
Go
Let
ahead,
me go ahead and just say my brief piece, and then because I'm having huge connection issues on Jitsi this morning.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on. Basically, computer-wise, I've installed some new equipment and just been working troubleshooting some of those installations. We installed a new digital signboard and at the Black Mountain campground, and it was working. For the most part, it's working, but it keeps shutting down, and I think it's a temperature issue with the player, which is a Raspberry Pi based single board computer. So if I can work out my temperature issues, I think it'll be fine. Also doing some Wi-Fi work, but that's what's been keeping me busy.
What model Raspberry Pi are you using up there, Alan?
The company the digital sign provider that we use is called Yodec, and if you sign up for and pay for a 12-month subscrition, they give you their Yodec player, which is really a Raspberry Pi. In which case, this happens to be a Raspberry Pi 4. All my digital signs are using Raspberry Pi 4. You can purchase, a Raspberry Pi with more memory and the version that has faster performance. But the Raspberry Pi 4 seemed to work pretty well.
Is that the 8 gig model or 16 gig model, or?
I think they're 4.
4? Okay.
Yeah.
Alan, what do you mean by digital sign?
Well, you know, like you go into a restaurant or pretty much everywhere now, and you'll see a digital sign with advertising things, or at an airport where they display flight schedules and conditions at the airport.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
digital signage.
So what is this a part of highpeaks.org? If so, where is there a plan for a digital sign? I mean, you have an impressive infrastructure of webcams and all kinds of things, but where do you need a digital sign?
We currently have, including the new display that we just installed about a week ago. The first two digital displays are up at the park. One is in the park office lobby. So when people come in, they can read all the information, you know, including pictures from the webcams and the weather station and all kinds of information about the park. That same content is also displaying on a digital display up at the summit. We call that the breezeway. It's that outdoor area between the concession stand and the museum. So people that are up at the summit can view that same, content. It also has a scrolling crawl across the bottom of the screen where we can go in there and change the messages as we desire. So we added this third display at the Black Mountain Campground, which is at the very, very base of the Black Mountains, and it's the trailhead for the Mount Mitchell Trail that goes 5.8 miles from the campground, climbs up to the summit at Mount Mitchell State Park. And the reason we wanted to put a display down at the campground is a lot of hikers take off on the trail unprepared, and they don't really know what to expect. So we provide them trail map. We advise them to bring plenty of drinking water, to dress appropriately, because the weather can be a lot different at the top than at the base. And so it's an aid to hikers, just to let them know they can see on the display our camera images from the top, because so they can see what the weather looks like. Is it clear? Is it foggy? Is it clouded in? So
when you say campground, are you referring to the Toe River campground that is down low, that is national forest, or is there a campground up high on the Mitchell Ridge?
There are three campgrounds. The one, there's a one on at Carolina Hemlocks Park on the Toe River.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that campground. We're talking about the one, the Black Mountain Campground, which is on U.S. Forest Service land, and that's also on the river. Beautiful campground. And then there is a smaller campground at Mount Mitchell State Park itself, but much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, Alan, everything that I'm just amazed at everything that you've been putting together on highpeaks.org, and all it seems to me you're a classic example of a non-governmental organization helping out a governmental entity, which is state park. And I would venture to say that you're probably more precocious and developed in this than any other community organization teamed up with a local state park anywhere else in the state. But I've wondered, are you finding examples where the state parks system is calling you or executing some of your examples elsewhere in the state? Either, certain parts of the assistance that you have done with Mount Mitchell. Are you seeing examples where other communities, I just picture you becoming a consultant for the whole state with what you're doing.
Don't want to do that. Rusty, to answer your question, yes, we do get inquiries for just technical advice on, how we brought in Wi-Fi internet service in a remote location. And I get questions and requests for assistance for our interactive trail map, which I basically wrote that code. And so I do provide help as I can. I have no time or interest in making a business of this, or I don't have enough time to even manage what we have on the plate right now. We're going up next week, and we're installing a multi-point Wi-Fi link to provide camera images in an area that's not currently served. And we're going to be adding some much higher quality IP cameras in the near future. So that's keeping me busy, and really just try to point other parks and other agencies in the right direction.
Alan, when you say IP cameras, are you talking about webcams, live feed imagery?
Yes, there's a difference between a webcam and an IP camera.
Okay.
A webcam is usually something that's attached to a computer, right, and allows you to do video conferencing or to record video blogs. The IP cameras, and a lot of them are very affordable. They're cameras that they use the internet protocol in order to communicate across a network. Mm-hmm. And typically for the live streams, they use RTSP, real-time streaming protocol, right, which is a pretty standard protocol for video usage. And I go in there with I can talk directly to the cameras, or in some cases you can go communicate with a network video recorder, and you can change the camera settings or what it displays. And anyway, usually set them up and they kind of run on their own. And our cameras, we don't really operate that much in real-time video because they would consume too much bandwidth for our limited Wi-Fi connections. So the cameras, for the most part, FTP images like every 5 minutes, right, to our web server. And once on our web server, our content management system, which is Drupal, right, displays them on our web page.
Okay, so you're talking about fixed images that are placed on the website periodically, right?
Yes, but the cameras themselves are sending out several channels of video data, right? And one is a higher quality stream, and another is a lower quality stream. And we have that capability of displaying the real-time streaming data. So we can view the cameras in real time, and that works great. But we can't, there's limited numbers of people, of clients that can access that video stream simultaneously. Otherwise, it just degrades. It just becomes too much bandwidth requirements for our current infrastructure. We also use apps on a smartphone that you can just pull up, open the app on your phone, and that will show one or more cameras and in real time, and that is working great. I mean, it's high quality images. Anywhere your smartphone has a network connection, including using the network carrier's own network connection, works great.
Well, I'll have to go back up to high peaks because I haven't noticed and thank you for clarifying, by the way, the difference between IP cameras and web. Anytime I go up on the internet and search for live feed of imagery of like railroad stations and stuff like that, they always refer to them as web cameras. And I just thought they were, connected. They were, everybody just called them web cameras. Webcams.
Dan, in fact, we call our cameras as well. We call them mountain webcams.
Yeah.
Because people know what that means.
Right.
But actually, to be technically correct, these are not webcams. Attached to a computer or server.
Right.
These are dedicated cameras that use the IP protocol, and they've got a lot of additional functions that a standard webcam would not have.
Are these 4K or just high definition or both? Or
we started this probably with the cameras about 4 or 5 years ago, and those cameras are not 4K. They don't really need to be because the images they capture to save on bandwidth.
Oh yeah, storage.
Yeah. But the new cameras, we've got several new cameras, and the ones that we're going to be installing up at the very top at the summit are ultra high def.
Okay.
So they're 4K and even higher in resolution. I mean, you can just the new camera is a pan tilt zoom camera.
Right.
Where you can zoom in. I mean, you could read, the writing on a pack of cigarettes. That's how high resolution it is.
And so I would be able to, as a visitor of your High Peaks website, would be able to access such a camera and do that?
Probably not. Like I say, you can use a video streaming service.
Okay.
That will allow that, but we don't allow it, but because our internet connection is over an 8-mile distance Wi-Fi connection.
Oh, okay.
And so we're getting somewhere around 15 to 20 megabit connection.
Yeah.
Over that link, and if you have 4 or 5 cameras and you had to push 4K or 8K resolution across it,
wouldn't work.
It just slows down the network. And we have other devices that are also running on that same limited connection.
Right.
So
Arnold's got his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, Arnold's got his hand up.
All right.
Looks like. Arnold, can you talk to us? It's got his.
You're muted, Arnold.
You're muted.
Still muted.
Yeah, he's still muted. He may not be able to hear us. Let me send something.
His question is, are they solar powered?
Oh,
Our cameras are not solar powered, but these manufacturers do offer solar powered IP cameras, and they're quite affordable. You know, I mean, less than $100 per camera for like the home version of IP security camera.
yeah. He says I thought they were remote. I guess he's wondering how you power them then.
Well, you need two things for the cameras. You need some type of power, which could be solar power. Some of the cameras come with small solar photovoltaic displays that are enough to recharge the batteries. The other requirement is you need a network connection. So you either have to have Wi-Fi access or hardwired Ethernet access to a router. Although, having said that, they do make cameras that are LTE or other they use cellular networks, but that can get expensive depending upon the amount of data or video that you're consuming. So you need power and you need network connectivity for the cameras.
Right. Rusty, you got your hand up?
Yeah, a question, Alan. What open source software have you been using? One of the ones that comes to mind has a Zone Minder been any use or value to you in the projects? And one of the other questions is which of these softwares are, I guess what I'm getting at is what you've assembled has a lot in common with the needs of someone managing personal property, like the barn out back, or just the ubiquitous surveillance that exists around personal property. And so I'm wondering, what are the open source tools that you use, and how are some of these things leveraged for their security benefits rather than for broadcasting information to a user public? It's sort of, there's two sides of the coin. There's the broadcasting of camera images, and there's also the personal monitoring of camera images, which includes the problem of looking for activity zones, counting and tabulating changes in the image, which ultimately gets into another area, which is wildlife research. So there's a lot of parallels between property management and security management and the evaluation of images for, like, are there really wild panthers anymore? Or what's the coyote population? All these kinds of questions. So what is the software, and how are you using this other part of the equation, which is the sampling and monitoring of camera images for either quadruped or biped activity?
Rusty, there are a number of open source software that you mentioned, Zone Minder, And I don't currently use ZoneMinder, but there's something called Blue Iris, which that's for the Windows operating system. But if I want to view live streaming video, I can use VLC Media Player. VLC is a very popular and commonly used interface for viewing, playing, streaming music and video. And VLC can use real-time streaming protocol. And so what I do is I just punch in the network address of the camera that I want to view. And depending upon how that camera is set up, it's all password protected. So it'll prompt me for a username and a password. Once I enter that, I'm viewing the stream. I'm going to try to share my screen here because I just logged into a live view, and you all should be able to see it. So let me try this, if I can get this screen sharing to work. All right, I'm going to click on screen sharing here. And select the, I'm going to select a screen here. So
We're not seeing it.
I know I haven't done it yet, but
Oh, okay.
all right, now, okay. All right, so I'm going to allow this, and then I'm going to go over to where the screen that I want to share, which is right here. Are you seeing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're seeing a camera image now?
Oh, yeah.
Good picture, yeah.
All right, now you'll see a car pull in. See these people somebody's getting into their car?
Yep.
There's a car passing by.
Yep.
Well, this is a real-time stream. And this particular camera is a fixed IP cam. We are replacing some of these cameras with pan, tilt, zoom. So I can actually pan horizontally or up, tilt up and down, or zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
But that gives you an idea. This is the image you're seeing right now is being served up by VLC Media Player.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I was going to comment about. I had forgotten that VLC Media Player, because I use that religiously. I had forgotten that it will allow you to use a live or a stream, digital stream of data, which is great.
Right. I'm going to close this up, and I don't know how to stop sharing here, but I will.
So you use IP streaming is what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. How do I stop? Oh, stop sharing right here.
Yep.
You get back to me.
Right.
All right. The camera manufacturers all supply their own proprietary software to both manage and to view the camera streams. So, and virtually all the camera manufacturers have versions for Windows, for Mac, and Linux. So, but for our purposes, we're using these cameras eventually to display images on a website. So somebody can pull up the website and view what the conditions are before they make a 50-mile drive all the way up there, and only to find out it's fogged in. So so our fixed static images, just is perfect for that. They're updated every 5 minutes, and they're more secure because they're only logging into, they're viewing the content on a website and not actually logging into a server.
Right.
And they use, so that's why we do that. We could show live stream images, just like the one I just showed you through VLC. You can do that in HTML5, just in regular website HTML software. That can also display real-time streaming images. So we just have chosen not to in order to save our limited bandwidth.
Sounds like a great thing you're doing there, because, you know, as a site visitor, if I wanted to check the conditions, like you said, if I didn't want to get in the car and drive 50 miles to go there and only to find out that it was fogged in, I could look and see, you know, 5 minutes ago or whenever. I know it's every 5 minutes. Hey, the current conditions are wonderful. I'd get in the car and go, you know. It's a good thing.
Well, anybody that wants to see the website, it's located at nchighpeaks.org.
Yeah,
Live streaming is on.
there you go. Go ahead.
Anyway, if you go to nchighpeaks.org, and then you can go to on the homepage. It's on the left. It says Mountain Web Cameras. If you click on that icon, it'll bring up a list of all of our cameras and our weather station, and you can view these images.
Yeah, like I said, Arnold provided the link to that, and I
Yeah.
put it in my browser there. So thanks Arnold for that. Appreciate it. Well, that's good information there, Alan. You're doing a great job up there, by the way, and the fact that you've got a Drupal site. You didn't mention that you also stood up the site that supports all of that. So that's a lot of work for somebody who doesn't get a paycheck for doing it.
Well, and before I close out, the other thing I've been working on, I just put up a WordPress site about 3 days ago, and that was a lot of fun, and interested in adding a lot more content to that.
Yeah, of course, not as secure as Drupal.
I think it's pretty secure, but anyway, there's nothing. I'm just amazed at now that you can reserve a domain name and put up a website in 10 minutes.
Right.
It's incredible for just not much money.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that WordPress now, I didn't realize this until about, 6 months ago when I had to decide what I wanted to do with my domains that I had. WordPress.com now is a domain registrar. I don't know how long they've been doing that, but they made a good deal for me, so I'm with them now as a domain registrar. Not as a hoster, but as a domain registrar.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've been up to, so let's pass it along to whoever's next.
Okay, well, thanks, Alan. I appreciate it. A lot of information, very informative, and I've got your website again now in my browser, so I'll go up and take a look at it. Let's move on. I think I thought I saw Larry. Did he leave? Looks like Larry stuck out here. He was here for a while, but I don't see him now. Who else? Looks like, how about Gene? Gene, you got anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention again that I had installed the newest long-term support from Ubuntu on my computer, and I was going to just quickly run through the process that I use, just so that I'm sure this is kind of a newbie kind of thing, but it never hurts to kind of remember where we came from.
Yeah.
So the process that I went through was to, first of all, take a backup, and I use rsync for that, RSYNC. And had to clear out some dead wood from the from my hard drive because the home directory had ballooned to about 65 gigs. Mostly books on tape that I transferred using most of those things I transferred to a USB stick to get them off of the home directory. So then I downloaded the install media from the web for Xubuntu, the 24.04 long-term support edition. And then I used the program disks to write the install image to the USB drive. And then from there, I booted into the install environment using that USB. And then next, I did a last-minute inspection of the hard drive using gparted just to make sure that all the partitions that I had were there and pretty clean. And then I clicked onto the icon on the desktop that said install Xubuntu. After a couple of choices for what type of keyboard and the wireless connection, then you come to the type of install you want to do, and I chose a manual, where the only choice that I had to make was to install to my previous location, format that partition, and choose the mount point of slash. And then after a few minutes, I've got a fresh install of Ubuntu 24.04. So then restoring the fresh backup that I'd taken earlier with rsync, couple of cleanup items. I had to edit the default grub file to uncomment the line to select OS Prober so that it would see the Windows install that I had also on the disk. And then I also had to go to the mouse and touchpad tab and had to click the touchpad to get it started with tap to click, because the default now is not tap to click, it's nothing. So then I went to software and updates and changed the default server, my default server, to the Duke archive to keep it in North Carolina, and then checked for additional proprietary drivers. And then I put in my go-to programs like VLC, of course, Opera, Vivaldi for browsers, and so on and so forth. I think everybody has their favorites. And then voila, got a brand spanking new OS with all my files and my home directory and configs intact, good for another 4 years of update and support, all for free.
And you said that was version 2104 LTS?
2404.
2404. Okay.
Yeah, it's usually the year, and it's usually even years.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say 21.
I may have. If I did, I was in error. So, 2404.
Yeah.
And it'll be good. And there's some way that you can have 12 years of support that they advertise, but I'm not sure that I'm ready for 12 years of support. I don't know. 12 may be past what I need.
Beyond the hardware life.
Yeah, really. Well, and this hardware life too.
Yeah. What installer does Xubuntu use?
It's the same one as Ubuntu uses. I mean, it's the same basic thing.
I can't remember. It's been a while.
That they've stripped it down to just a few. You don't really have to make that many choices. Used to be you have to check whether you wanted to format your home directory and blah, blah, blah. But it seems like everything is a little more automated and a little more user-friendly than
well, it's been a while since I used Ubuntu, so I didn't know if it was Calamares or Anaconda or what it was.
I don't know that I know, Dan. You could probably find out, but I don't know that that's something that I know.
Question.
Yes, sure.
I'm sorry that I got lost in the shuffle. You referred to that you were preserving a dual boot with Windows.
Right.
So I'm wondering, can you repeat again to me where in the sequence of points of no return did it, boot partition you wanted to use, and how did it communicate to you that you were preserving dual boot? That's part of my question. The other question is, you referred to using something called OS Prober and I couldn't understand where that was involved in the install program.
Okay. Used to be they would running the OS Prober so that it would look at other operating systems that are installed on your disk. Used to be that was the default, but for the past, I think maybe 2 iterations of the long-term support edition of Ubuntu, OS Prober has not been selected by default. So you have to go into etc default grub into that file, and it's of course a read-only file, so you have to sudo into that and edit that file where it's commented out to deploy the OS Prober. If you remove the hashtag and take away the commented out and commented in, then it will run, once you do a sudo update grub, it will run the OS Prober and include your installation of Windows into the grub. Does that make sense, Rusty?
Yes. So you're saying that this is a deficit or an omission specifically in the Ubuntu version of?
No, it's just I think it's probably Ubuntu wide. I think it's probably in every Ubuntu flavor,
well, that's
including Mint and all those other things. Although some of those could be different. Mint may be different because they do a little more tweaking.
What was this well explained as the pop-up screens were presented to you during install? Did you have a very clear warning that the default would be?
What you've got to do, Rusty, is make sure you run the manual rather than the automated install. If you check the automated, then it's not gonna allow you to keep that grub, I don't think. So if you run the manual install, then you end up with those two, with your 2 operating systems intact, and then you have to realize that Windows is not showing up on your grub boot screen. So then you Google what to do about that, and it will walk you through setting up the OS Prober and getting that.
I want you to hold my hand sometime in the near future when I try to go through it, because I'm just amazed that that they've stripped out any warning of what the defaults are.
Well, the main default, the main choice that you've got to make is that manual rather than automated install, because the automated install is probably going to overwrite your whole hard drive and take away the Windows altogether. So if you do that, you've lost it pretty much forever, unless you've got the install disks or a Windows, which you can do. I mean, I just downloaded and installed a Windows 10 version off of the Microsoft website of all places. For
Right,
nothing.
you can do that.
Yeah, that
free.
works. So you can go back and put it on, but then when you install another OS, the grub does not automatically pick up that Windows installation.
You got to run the grub update.
You've got to, well, first of all, at least in my experience, you have to include that OS Prober so it sees, so that the grub updating that you're doing is going to see that Windows operating system. And then once you've done that, then you run grub update, sudo grub update, and it will include the Windows installation in your grub file.
So you install Windows first. and
Yeah,
then
Windows is always, you got to
Yeah,
install that
okay.
first.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
I've
because
never used OS Prober, and so I'm kind of interested.
I don't know that it's something you can use. It's just there.
I'm
And,
wondering if that's just something that's in. Well, I wouldn't think that
I
would
think
be
it's
just
part of
in
Grub.
Ubuntu.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a part of Grub.
Yeah.
I've just never used it because I never had to. I
Yeah.
always just did a Grub update, and it found the
And it
other
found-
operating system
yeah,
I was working with.
yeah. Well, and it may do that automatically. I just don't know. The Google thing that I looked at said, "Here's what you do," and I did that, and it worked. So
Yeah.
Other solution. As with all things Linux, there's probably more than one solution to every problem.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes so many solutions that
Sure
you
there are.
wander around in them half your life.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my experience with Linux. And I've done 3. I had trouble with one computer because somehow it's not finding my boot EFI, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to make the boot EFI visible to the booting process.
Well, you're talking about on your operating system installed on the hard drive internally into that device, not externally via USB.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking about
Well,
once you finish the install, once you reboot to go
Right.
into your OS for the first time, it didn't find the EFI Ubuntu S begins with an X file. That's the EFI file that it's keyed onto.
Is that a laptop you're putting this on?
It's a laptop. It's a Dell Precision 4500, I think.
Okay. Well,
It's
is it running
older.
in UEFI mode or is it running in BIOS mode?
It was running in, first of all, legacy mode, and that may have been the problem.
That's the problem.
But I changed it to UEFI mode, and it didn't change anything.
Didn't see it after you did
It
that.
didn't see it after I changed it. So
Mm.
it may have been because the install was done in legacy mode too. So I don't know.
Well, that may be.
But I mean, I clicked the EFI install, but there again, I think in simplifying things, they just sort of gloss over that. And if it won't install EFI, they just automatically go legacy. So they probably kicked me into that, and anyway. And I can bring it up if I do go to the F12 on Dell's at least, F12 to get a BIOS screen. Well, there's Mr. Comer.
Mr. Comer. Hey, Ed.
So anyway, I'll line it up.
Perfect timing.
If you want to go on, Dan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Gene, thank you. I appreciate that. And Ed, you're perfect timing. And so what do you got going on in Linux?
Well, in just Linux per se, I bought a system. Gene saw it. It's a system, $400 system with an i7 on it, plenty of memory.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
Good. I'm going to use it to replace my existing big old 12-year-old system, but I just haven't had time to get to it yet.
What is it? What's the manufacturer?
It's a Dell. It's a Dell 704 small form factor with a
Right. That's
Intel i7.
Yeah, that's good.
It's nice for the price.
$400, can't beat that.
That's right. That's including shipping too.
Did you get that direct from Dell? Did you buy it from Amazon, or what'd you do?
Bought it from an Ohio computer company. Apparently, they buy stuff in lots from businesses that are replacing their systems.
Okay.
This is used in some business someplace, but I'll tell you, it looked brand new. It had no dust inside. It wasn't used much.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a surplus item from a corporate, government entity, and you got it on a steal.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's
Yeah.
quite snappy and fast. I like it.
What are you running on the thing now that you've got it in place?
When I bought it, I bought this specific one because it said it came with Ubuntu installed. Some of them they put Windows 10 on some and Windows Ubuntu on others. And I bought it with Ubuntu because I wanted to make sure it was 100% Linux compatible. So I ran it with Ubuntu for a week for two reasons. One is make sure it was totally compatible, and two, I hadn't used Ubuntu in 12 or 15 years. I want to see how it has changed. And I played with it long enough to say, I guess I could live with it, but I don't want to. So I replaced it with Linux Mint XFCE, which I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I've used that before. That's a good operating system.
Well, XFCE is XFCE, but
No, I mean the Mint. I've used Mint
but
before.
Mint they add some Mint extras, which is
Yeah, I use XFCE desktop environment on my MX Linux, so
Yep.
desktop. I love it. I love XFCE because it's a lightweight desktop operating system and it does everything I want to do.
It does what I want to do without the eye candy. And
Exactly.
I'm not into eye candy. I'm into just getting the job done.
Right. Whereas with KDE, you got a lot of performance. I mean, a lot of overhead stuff that degrades your performance a lot of times if your hardware can't support it.
And that's it.
That's all you got? Okay.
For Linux, I mean, I'm actually working on a, trying to get an interrupt program using pen interrupts on a AT Tiny 1616. I'm trying to get that working, and I'm just having a heck of a time.
How's your son's project going with this circuit boards and stuff for the
It's
aviation side?
It's my nephew, but
Nephew, yeah.
That's what this is actually for. I do my work for him mostly for educational purposes to keep the gray matter from deteriorating.
Yeah, I hear you.
So to learn how to write interrupt code on a new processor makes me exercise the gray matter a little bit.
Right.
I need it.
Right. So do I. I understand. Well, sounds like you're keeping busy and you've got a computer there that's probably going to keep you in working with it for a while and learning it. And I've liked those small form factor computers. They're pretty good. They're
I
handy.
don't believe it has a. I know it doesn't have a camera. I don't know what it has in the way of audio. So neither does this computer. My big computer. I'm talking to you on my phone because
Right.
of course it does everything.
Yeah, you can't put like a NVIDIA graphics card in it or anything, but it's not a tower.
Yeah, I can. I
Oh,
have
can you?
I
Okay.
have 50 slots, even in a small form factor.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
In fact, it came with a wireless fob, which I didn't like much because it didn't work well. So I quickly bought a plug-in Wi-Fi cards because I don't have any Ethernet in my office. That's one of those things I've been putting off for 4 years. Getting up in the attic and running a cable across and down.
Right.
And just particularly now that the attic's getting hot. I should have done it during the winter.
Yeah, I want you to take pictures when you crawl up into that attic, Ed. I want to see the video. No pictures, no proof, right?
Pulling cable.
I do have a little attic space up there. There's 2 4x8 sheets of plywood that I can put things on, and then there's some little shelves that I added. But the rest of the attic is just blown rock wool. Nothing very exciting.
Well, we don't want to see any video where you step into an open space and fall through the ceiling. We don't want to see that.
Well, I do have something I've got to fix up there. You do have what your DIYers are like this. I had walked way back in the attic where I was going to try and get an improvement on my bathroom vents. Never made it that far back. I got far back enough to know that the bathroom vents are being blocked by a piece of sheathing. And I can't get to them. But in walking back there, when I was coming back, there was a piece of Romex coming up and sitting, resting on a truss. The wires were out with wire nuts on the end, and there was nothing on it. I said, "What the heck is this? Definitely not per code." I think some workers were doing some work up there probably 7 years ago when they replaced the air conditioning. And they ran that Romex in to have some electric light back there. And when they left, they took off the light, put the wire nuts off, and walked away. I got to get rid of that. Probably the best way is to get rid of it.
For everybody that doesn't know, Ed is the president of the Homeowners Association in his part of Rolling Green Village. So this is the president talking about the codes now. You better watch out.
Well, I know Sure's World, if when I go
You've got to set the example, Ed.
Well, I know that Sure's World, when somebody, when I go to sell it, they'll probably find some overzealous inspector who goes up and finds that. So I just as soon have it gone.
Yeah.
I'll probably take it out because trying to run it correctly per code isn't worth the effort. It's easier just to take it out.
Yep. Probably is.
Is it connected to your circuit breaker box?
It's connected to a light switch that turns on a light in the storage area. And they tapped into that, and then they ran it just loose over into the other part of the wires dangling like that. So I'm going to have to put on a headlight where I can have some light, turn the breaker off, and disconnect it, make it loose, and then I can roll it up and get rid of it.
Yeah. It's not up to code.
All right, Tom, just take it.
We couldn't hear you, Gene.
Oh, sorry. I said no talk yet, just pictures. We want to see pictures.
And I'm silencing my mic. I think I'm done monopolizing the time.
That's okay. Well, we appreciate you, Ed. That's good stuff you're doing there, and good luck with your new computer. Sounds like you got a good deal. And Lucy, who else we got here? Arnold can't really. We don't see his image, and he can't speak, I guess.
We got to hear from you, Dan.
Yeah, and it looks like I'm it. So I don't have a lot this month. There is one thing I'm doing, one problem that I have and I'm working on right now. But one thing I'm doing is I set up a new website, and it's based on my domain that's being hosted by WordPress, but it's a Drupal site, and it's dancalloway.com. It's a secure site. And it's got all the articles that I had on our WNC Linux users group. I've moved over to my new domain, and it is running, Alan. It's running version 10 of Drupal, and it's running really well. I'm using Composer to update it. I haven't gotten into Drush or some of the others yet, but I'll get into that at some point. But I had to take our WNC Linux users group down because the site started having issues with corruption, and I could not upgrade it to version 10. It was just not upgradable. I don't know what happened to it. I have backups that are running on my dog's barking. Sorry. I have backups that are running and being kept every day on it, but I tried restoring with a backup and that didn't work. So I just said, okay, forget it. So I took it down and I brought up my own. And something you said, Alan, which is very true. It took me all of 10 minutes to spin up another virtual private server at Akamai and install Drupal on it and get that up. And then the main thing I had to do is I had to install MariaDB database server and Apache and then Drupal and get that up and running. So the whole project probably took about an hour to get it up and running, and now I'm building it. And so the site is, a work in progress. And if you want to visit it, it's a secure site, https://dancalloway.com, not www, but just dancalloway.com. And that'll take you to it. And and I'm building it little by little, and it will be, like I said, a work in progress for a
Could you
while.
put that in the chat, Dan?
Yeah, let me do that now. I put it up in our group, but you're not a part of our group, Gene, so you didn't see it. But let me go ahead and put that in. Give me a second. Okay, and here it comes. You should see it now.
Site looks good, Dan. I visited it yesterday and
Okay, well,
visited
great.
some of the
Thank you.
links on it.
Yeah, it's running on a pretty slim virtual private server being shared hosted or shared um, supplied by Akamai in Atlanta, Georgia, and Akamai and Linode are joining forces. They're merging, so I'm using Akamai as my hosting. It's not a WordPress site; it's a Drupal site, and that I'm building, and it's being the domain for it, dancalloway.com, doesn't go up for renewal until next year. So it's going to be there. I'm going to renew it in 2025, so it'll be there for a while. And I have big plans for that site. It's going to expand. It's going to look even better than what it is. That's just a Drupal theme that it's running on right now. But I'm going to be doing a lot of additional stuff with it. And that kind of segues into the next thing I wanted to talk about, because I'm going to, and I think Alan is as well, going to a Drupal camp here in Asheville that's going to be meeting on the campus of UNCA at the Highsmith Student Union building center. And I'm going to be participating and taking training under the DDEV segment or sessions for 2 days. That's going to be July the 12th and 13th, I believe it is. And there's something going on the 14th as well. But on the 12th and 13th, or 11th and 12th, I can't remember exactly. Let me pull up the calendar real quick, take a look so I don't get the dates wrong. It's Friday and Saturday, so it's the 12th and 13th of July. And that's going to be, like I said, on the campus of UNCA. And so I'm going to be part of the daily sessions there, not participating in presenting, but just being a part of the training. And so I want to get boned up on Drupal. I started working with Drupal at Drupal version 6, which is a long time ago. And then I stopped using Drupal for a while. So Alan got me reintroduced basically into Drupal, and with Drupal 9. And so now that I'm into 10, which is the latest version, I'm getting excited about Drupal again and getting back into it. So for me, Drupal is the way to go. WordPress is something I did for a long time, but I like Drupal better because it gives you better control over the structure of your site and permissions and visibility, and because Drupal uses something called views that WordPress doesn't use as far as I know. And then Drupal's got a lot of modules. There must be, 400,000 modules that Drupal uses. It's a lot of modules. So you can control your website fairly well. But that's what I'm doing, and then I'm going to this Drupal camp in July, and so that's what I'm doing in that area. One of the things I was telling you that was a trouble that I'm having right now is I just had my laptop, the hard drive in it apparently went south on it. I was running Alma Linux, which is based off of Alma. Basically, is an upstream clone of Red Hat Enterprise Linux of RHEL 9, and so was running Alma Linux version 9 on it. And I powered the laptop up the other day, thinking, okay, well, I need to make sure it's running well and everything for Drupal camp, only to find out that, and probably a good thing that had happened, was looks like the hard drive died on it. It's about a 4-year-old laptop, so it's an NVMe M.2 drive internally, And it's a Western Digital, so you would think that that would last a while, but it looks like a Western Digital Blue maybe. So I don't know what the lifespan or life expectancy of that drive is, but apparently it's 4 years because it died. Looks like Ed's got something he's pulling up. What you got? What you got, Ed?
Yeah, so my laptop's dying. This is a 2 gigabyte flash SSD.
Gigabyte or terabyte?
2 terabytes by
Yeah.
a company called Team Group. I bought it from not Amazon. I bought it from Newegg.
Right.
Lasted 4 months before it went belly up.
That's not going into a laptop though.
And it was in my mainframe here.
Yeah.
The big
Okay.
machine went belly up, and it's out of warranty, and Newegg's warranty sucks. This company sucks. So I decided to open it up. I want to show you what's inside a 2 terabyte drive. We'll open it up.
Yep.
There's the chips. There's nothing over here, empty. It's a little board.
You probably paid a couple $100 for that.
No, I paid too little, and why it died in 4 months.
Oh,
You get what you pay for. So
2 terabyte drive and you paid very little for it?
well, for what it should cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I replaced it with a Samsung 1 terabyte.
Right. Right. There you go.
All right.
Yeah. Well, the NVMe drive that's in my laptop, I've got an Acer Aspire, and it's relatively new. Like I said, it's probably about 4 years, 3 to 4 years old. It's the original drive that's in it. And so, yeah, I opened it up last night. Well, the problem I was having, didn't look like it wouldn't boot up. And I thought, well, what's going on? So I got into the BIOS, and it looked like the BIOS was recognizing the drive, which is normal. You can recognize the hardware. That doesn't mean it's going to boot up. The operating system is going to work on it. So I thought, well, maybe just the operating system, something happened there, partitioning or something happened, and I just needed to partition the operating system and reinstall it. So I downloaded I thought I'll put MX Linux on it instead of Alma. I downloaded and prepared the USB stick to install the operating system, put that in, and when I went in to install the operating system, lo and behold, it wanted to install the operating system on the USB stick. And I thought, wait a minute. So this was through the installer now. And so I, hit the down arrow to see if it recognized the installed hard drive, and it didn't see it. So I thought, oh, okay, what's going on there? So I ran gparted. Now, even if the installer didn't see the hard drive, gparted should see it. And this was on an MX Live USB stick. So I ran gparted, and sure enough, gparted does not see the hard drive on that laptop internally, which tells me the hard drive has died. So Ed's right that, the SSD apparently has died on that laptop, and it's only 3 plus, almost 4 years old, and that it shouldn't be doing that in 3 years.
Hey, Dan, I gparted could see this drive, and I formatted it, put it back in the system, and the system did not see it.
That the drive has died, or there's something terribly, well, even if the partitioning had, the partition table had gone awry, blew up or something, gparted should still be able to see it as unallocated space, but it doesn't see the drive at all.
Well, in my case, there was something funky, and I don't know what. And
Yeah.
it would see it, but then the system would not. Very strange.
Well, let me ask you guys, so that you can tell me, educate me I wouldn't think that the fact that Gparted can't see the drive would have anything to do with the BIOS firmware in my laptop. Is that something that do you agree or disagree?
I-
With the BIOS
think
firmware
there's-
getting in the way?
I think there's a difference in that Gparted is seeing the drive despite whatever might or might not be on the boot block, because I can write the boot block from Gparted, but the system apparently Linux XFC or whatever the boot the Linux boot was, the boot block wasn't right for it, because you don't have to have anything in the boot block for Gparted to see it, because it writes the boot block when you want to.
Is that UFI or is that the old style?
My system is UFI.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well,
That's probably part of the problem.
my question is if the firmware in my laptop is screwed up, is corrupted, would that impact the Gparted on a live, MX live USB application or pen drive inserted in the laptop, running Gparted off of the live USB? Would that firmware get in the way and not allow it to see the hard drive? I wouldn't think it would. What does anybody think? Alan, do you have any idea?
No.
Okay. I wouldn't think that have anything to do with it. As far as I'm concerned, the hard drive itself has died, electronically or otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm planning on replacing it to see if that fixes the problem, because that laptop was fairly expensive. I think I paid like $800-900 for it.
I've got one real cheap for you, Dan.
Yeah. Well, I'm buying a 1 terabyte NVMe M.2. It looks like my hard drive, Ed, is not like that. My hard drive looks like a stick of gum. Okay, that's what it looks like. And so that drive,
You're using an M.2?
it's an M.2 drive, right? So the drive I'm buying is the manufacturer on that drive is, I believe it's not Crucial. It's a Samsung 990. And I think that's a fairly reputable company. So, and it was only like $80. That's not a bad price for a 1 terabyte drive. So I bought that. It's coming through Amazon, be here Monday. I'll pop that in and see if it works. And if it does, I'm golden, because I paid, about $900 for that laptop, and I don't want to have to take it to Geek Squad or somebody to take a look at if I can do it myself. Rusty, you got something you want to say?
Yeah, I have a question because of this discussion about SSD drives, and just the whole strategy of having something that is preferred for its speed in access, but also vulnerable for the more finite number of writes that should be processed to to portions of the drive. And so this is a very general question, but it seems to me like if you're going to get the maximum benefit from an SSD, that you would like to boot all of your installed software, which is basically a bunch of reading, and you would then you'd like to have the benefits of all that quick access and reading, but you would also like to have every application restricting its writing activity, which would be like temporary files, cache files, and
Logging,
swap files.
yeah.
And so what my question is, what is the software that exists or should exist for managing an SSD to its best benefits so that you segregate reading to certain partitions that are mapped for every application that is running, and then essentially a plan to create other small partitions that are intended to die early, but not to take away your valuable archive of application files. And the reading are not only the application running files. The other important thing to reside in a almost like a read-only partition would be completed application results that you know are finished and you are saving them for future reference, but you never intend to change them. So I'm just wondering, what is the software for managing? It seems to me an SSD should be divided up into these little fiefdoms that are custom used between read and write capability.
Well, to answer your question, Rusty, short answer is there's a package in Linux that runs that's called trim that's used to handle that. But I've used it in the past, and I don't know if it has made any difference. I think it's more. I agree with Ed. I think that they manufacture into these SSDs the life expectancy of them, and there's not much way you can get around it. I mean, they're designed to do X 100,000 number of writes and reads, and that's it. And after you exceed that number, it's going to go. The drive's going to die. So, and it's out of warranty, obviously. So, I don't want to. I think Ed needs to say something and wants to say something. Gene does too, but we haven't given Larry a chance to speak, and I'm pretty much done with what I wanted to say. And I'm not trying to cut you off, Rusty, but we've gone 2 hours now and a little over. Larry hasn't had a chance to say anything yet, and so I'm going to give up the rest of my time. But Gene, what do you got to say? And Ed, what do you have to say? Let's move
For
to
me,
Gene.
just a quick addition. I'm sure you thought about it, Dan, but did you run fdisk on the dead drive?
I did.
Okay.
FDisk didn't see it either.
Okay. Well, it's not there then.
Yeah. So if FDisk doesn't see it and Gparted doesn't see it, because I'm using a live USB, through a pen drive in order to access Gparted itself and FDisk as well. And if it doesn't see the drive, and I haven't removed the drive, then that just tells me that electronically that drive has died, or the connection for the drive has died to the drive itself. And I would hope that it's not the connection, which means it would be a motherboard issue. And then that means that, you got a dead laptop, pretty much unusable laptop. But I think it's probably the hard drive has died. You agree? Gene?
Yeah, I do. Sure. I think if neither fdisk or Gparted sees it.
Right.
Well, like I say, my analysis on mine, I felt like it was something in the boot block. And of course, that's someplace in the flash chip. So
Yeah.
one of the flash chips has got a defect in it.
Right. The boot, whatever chip that is handling the boot section of your operating system.
There's four chips. I just took it out. Here's the empty shell.
Right.
There's two looks like two memory chips, and then two more memory chips.
Yep. Right. Pretty simple. Not much you can do with that either. You can't work on it.
No, not very reliable either.
No. All right. Well, thank you. All right. So, Larry, we haven't heard from you. What's going on?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Before I went out here, so I've been came back on just, 10 minutes ago. Been out about 30 minutes or more. So I lost the connection. Um, didn't really have too much to say, but uh, Rusty was making some comments about Google or how people, all this feedback, and it made me think about the situation with roads around, like here in Hickory, where the guy follows Google Maps evidently one night and drives off a bridge and dies because there were a lot of people that evidently left messages or left posted that the road was closed, but Google didn't update the information, and Google has been sued. I don't know what's ever happened about that by the relatives of the man that died. And even a month ago, I came down here the end of March trying to get to a park that I had never, that I just looked up on, before I came, try to figure out how to get there and look at Google Maps and so forth. And when I get there, the road is under construction and there's a detour. And this was not uh, noted at all in any information I saw before I got here. You just have to come here and, I've never been to the place, so I'm kind of driving around trying to find this park near some school, and I didn't know what was there, following detour signs to try to get there. So, having input from local people didn't seem to help with that situation. But when I found the place without a lot of trouble, but still, it's just sometimes a lot of roads when there's heavy traffic, like even around Asheville, they'll Google tells you what's going on with local traffic situations in a timely fashion, but doesn't seem to always apply to situations I've run into. Just a comment about and I don't know what was going on when I was out here this afternoon, so I'll just end what I have to say on that note right now. But maybe just one other comment about, might get on the soapbox about technology, having technology in everything, like self-driving vehicles. That seems kind of bizarre to me. If self-driving vehicles are going to take over, or it's already taken over to some extent, and people seem to think they can use it. And I wonder about artificial intelligence for everything too. What do you have to learn these days if you can be artificially intelligent? So I'll just quit on that subject. And since we're way over time today anyway, so that's it for me.
I'll add one thing in, and I'll shut up. Talking about artificial intelligence, I would have a lot of trouble getting this interrupt routine running. And why don't I ask ChatGPT to design the code? So I did ask it three different times. I had to have a lot of iterations. After about the sixth iteration, none of which nothing that it gave me would compile. But on the lab, when I could tweak it, make it compile, but I kept saying, you gave me code that wouldn't compile. After 6 iterations, it gave up. It finally said that I needed to go do some research because it had exhausted its capability. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, AI is amazing. I mean, but you can't believe, like Leander said a while back, you necessarily can't believe everything that AI tells you. You got to fact check AI to make sure that it knows what you're.
Well, it was keying off of the chip type, the AT-Tiny 1616. But what it was giving me is code. It was cobbling together things from incompatible sources. I'm using a specific library called the Tiny Mega Core. So it would bring in elements of the Tiny Mega Core, and then it would bring in elements out of the Arduino library, and elements out of the microchip library, And you can't mix those three. They're not compatible. It couldn't,
Right.
it couldn't seem to figure it out. It was like, hey, everything's AT Tiny 1660. It ought to work, but it doesn't.
Right. I hear you. I hear you. Okay, well, we've run over time here, and we've got a pretty good lively discussion today. Has anybody got any ideas for any like future presentations, like perhaps next month or the following? If anybody's got any ideas of anything, if you are part of our group, please post any ideas you might have for presentations up there. So we haven't had a presentation since I think I was the last one who presented. That was back in March, I believe. And I think that was on OM Open Media Vault, if I'm not mistaken. We need to get some presentations going if we can, and because it's good to have somebody give us some talk on and show us some of the things they're doing with projects they're working on. And like I said, I was the last one. I think Brent may have been the one before that, and Leander did one as well. But we got a couple of folks here that, and I think Alan, you did one a while back on Drupal. But other folks can get involved. That'd be great. Anybody else have any follow-up comments rather on any Linux stuff you're doing before we close? Okay.
Good seeing you all.
I guess the nays have it. So, all right. Well, guys, take care,
Enjoyed
and
everything.
we'll see
See
you in
y'all.
June. And hopefully everybody's doing well in May, and when we get into June, we'll. I don't know what day is that in June that the meeting is on. Let's see, let me look at my calendar. June, the first Saturday's on the 1st. That'll be the first of the month. All right. Well, you take care, and we'll catch you guys later.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.